SaveWithConrad.com.
My name is Catherine West from Visalia, California. And for many years, my husband has listened to the podcasts. And so every time I am stressed about anything, he has said, well, we need to call Save with Conrad. We ended up in a situation where we thought this would be helpful for us. So we were struggling with some credit card debt that we had. We knew that we had some equity in our house that we could possibly access to get some cash out and refinance, consolidate some of those things. And so we were able to do that with this latest refinance that we did. It saves us so much on interest and really helps us out financially. Plus, we have a little left over to be able to do a few things around the house that we wanted to. And the money that we were paying into those things, we can hopefully start saving now. In that alone, we'll save $1,400 a month. And it didn't change our house payment, maybe even like $50 less. I feel like we're far away in terms of like the United States, but I don't feel that far away from you guys. I always feel like you're a phone call away, you're an email away, and always like available to me. Diane Raver is who we worked with. And every time I needed her, I was able to reach out and contact her, and she was always getting right back to me. I felt heard. I called with real concerns, and I really just needed some help and to figure out how to make this work. I never felt like I was getting this because you just wanted business. Like, I felt like you genuinely care about what I need, and you heard what I needed, and then you found a way to make that happen. And so I recommend you guys wholeheartedly. I feel like you'll be honest and helpful. And feeling heard is just what every person wants to have done when it's in a situation like this. My name is Catherine West, and I saved over $1,400 a month with SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. Bruce, what's going on, man? How are you?
Well, we're going to do our best, damn it. That's all I can say, Conrad. That's all I can say, because it's like what time, midnight or whatever the hell time it is right now. And that's what I'm doing.
Why are you saying we're doing our best?
Well, we're going to do our best.
Don't we always?
Real answer?
Oh, you don't usually do your best, you're saying.
Of course I do.
Okay.
I do better than my best. I'll over motherfucking deliver. Every goddamn time. And happy about it. What year are we talking about?
2005.
Uh-oh.
Our topic.
Oh boy.
Our topic today is one of the most memorable Royal Rumbles of all. Of course, it's Royal Rumble season. And 8 days from now is the 2022 Royal Rumble. Bruce, you nervous, anxious, excited? I know we don't talk about current stuff, but this year's Royal Rumble looks like it's going to be rather interesting.
Absolutely. Always interesting.
And of course, what an interesting story we've got in store for you today. 2005, you know, we're going to talk about, well, how this Rumble ended Vince's quads. But before we get there, I want to lighten the mood a little bit. Let's talk about the infamous and one of the best commercials WWE ever did, the Westside Story commercial. Let's take a listen. I want to play a little audio from that.
There's gonna be some trouble tonight. A very royal rumble. That's right. We'll step into the ring. We'll reach an understanding. When the smoke is clear, I'll be the last man standing. I'm gonna settle every score tonight. They'll take back every word they say tonight. I'm gonna show the door to every saint or sinner. There can only be one Royal Rumble winner.
That's not the Rumble I had in mind.
WWE Royal Rumble, live Sunday, January 30th, only on pay-per-view.
Really a phenomenal commercial, but it does make me laugh every time I see it. I mean, Rey Mysterio with the wig on top of the mask, Benoit not needing to wear a wig, but these guys snapping and clapping and singing. Anybody give any pushback to that?
Thing on this, man, it was absolutely wonderful. It was so much fun, and we did it. We shot it in. This is the shoot, apparently, where the infamous TNA cookies and milk and shit.
Didn't they bring balloons too? Did they bring balloons? I thought it was milk, cookies, and balloon. And Sahadi was kind of behind that for them, right?
It may have been. Vince and I weren't there when that happened.
Right.
So we came up and they said, "Oh yeah, hey, the TNA guys came over and they mentioned their names," and we said, "Who?" But yeah, I wasn't there for that.
So Bruce, tell me about, when you think about your favorite commercials that you guys shot over the years. It feels like this one and the WrestleMania, I think it was 22 when WrestleMania went Hollywood and you had all the old movie spoofs. Those are probably my two favorite series of commercials. Are there any others that stand up there with you?
Oh man, it's funny because I always go back to this one for a couple of reasons. One, because we shot it at Universal Studios, and the guy that we had that was the I guess the associate producer, stage manager was so good and handled the talent so good. And it could have been one of those situations where you could have put somebody in there and the boys would have looked at him like, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
But this guy was able to handle them very professionally, and he did every move. And he would get down, and he would snap his fingers, and he would dance, and he would do his shit, and he would sing. I mean, like, he knew the commercial forward and backward.
Right.
So he would tell everybody, he would do everybody's part for them. And it could, it was one of those things where you're watching it at first, it's, ah, ha, 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 and all that stuff, and funny, ha, ha. But at the same time, it's serious because you got to shoot this commercial. And this guy just, barreled through it. I remember the catering people coming through with shots of espresso. It was a long shoot, and it was a pretty intense and good fun shoot. But everybody was having fun because it was so different. It took you out of the norm of what you'd normally do, and guys were loving it and jumping up on the cars, and it was a good fun shoot. Bradshaw didn't need to do anything to his hair.
No.
His was goofy 1960s all the way, just perfect.
Do you remember who came up with the concept for this commercial?
Man, I know John Gaborik pulled it all together there with the folks in Universal. I don't know. It was studio folks, but I don't remember who specifically, because it was just a concept that we had put together. And hey, could this work? The creative services people back at the office had come up with the poster and thought, hey, what if we did a Westside Story kind of theme? And then it was a theme that carried all the way through, and it just fit. And it was one of those that you never in a million years would have expected to see. And then when you saw it, you couldn't get it out of your head.
Really a home run. And I'm not saying this to be funny. This had to be Pat Patterson's favorite one, right? WWE and singing, that's like right up his alley. He loved to sing.
I just want to do the my way. I did it my way. You do it your way. I do it my way. Hey, you know what today is? January 19th. It's Pat Patterson's birthday.
Isn't that cool too? As you and I are recording, it's the 30-year anniversary of the 92 Rumble. And, it's just so fun to think about all the favorite Royal Rumbles that have happened over the years, and Pat Patterson's birthday, the creator of the Royal Rumble. It's good timing, isn't it?
It is.
So this pay-per-view is right after the New Year's Revolution pay-per-view, which took place down in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And at the time, the vacant world title was determined in an elimination chamber match between Triple H, Edge, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Batista, and Randy Orton. It's pretty crazy to think about when you look at that list of performers. It's hard to find 6 bigger names over the last 20 years. And then you add in Shawn Michaels is the special guest referee. That show is also well remembered for being the show where both Eugene and Lita tore their ACLs in matches against Christian and Tyson Tomko and Trish Stratus. And then Kane would pin Gene Snitsky, and Lord knows it wasn't his fault. And of course, Triple H wins the world title. And then the night after New Year's Revolution on Raw, and mind you, Batista still a member of Evolution at this point, Batista and Orton face off in a number 1 contenders match, with Orton winning the right to face Hunter at the Royal Rumble. So my question to you, Bruce, is coming out of the pay-per-view, New Year's Revolution, and now of course Raw, did you know at this point it was going to be Triple H and Batista at WrestleMania? Was that already determined before the Royal Rumble?
Yeah. Absolutely.
05 is just such an interesting year because it feels like you could have went either way with either Cena or Batista. And we know, because of the brand split.
Yeah, you could have. Oh, anyway, we'll get there to that point. But anyway,
I wanted to mention, it's written in the Observer that during this era, you missed some time because your father suffered a stroke. Do you remember what your life was like in this era?
My life was turned upside down during this era. My dad did not have a stroke. Imagine them getting something wrong. My dad had fallen, and he had slipped, and he dislocated his shoulder and broke his elbow, actually. So when they got him into the hospital during that time, he also fell again in the hospital, and that was just kind of the beginning of the end. And it was pretty much every day you thought was going to be the last day. And during this time was a pretty sucky time for me.
Well, I wish that wasn't the case. It's also mentioned in the Observer that Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, Trish Stratus, Stacy Keibler, and Shawn Michaels all went to Japan to promote the upcoming tapings there. And Shane would even discuss that they're interested in running the Tokyo Dome. Man, can you imagine if that actually happened? How close, if at all, was there ever any serious conversation? Did it ever look like, hey, that might actually happen?
I think that the politics in Japan were such that it possibly could have, but at the time, I think that I don't know that it would have been a big money deal. I don't know that we would have been able to go over there. Again, with what has been written about Japan and Japan's business and everything, so much of it is fantasized about, and people think, one thing when in reality, business over there was something completely different. And trying to do business there as an American company is difficult as well. So it just was challenging to say the very least.
There's a tease that we're going to have Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels. They're going to do a standoff here, but the Observer would say for Mania, at least as of this past week, Angle versus Undertaker was still penciled in. They really don't have to commit to anything until Rumble, at which point they should build the major angles. They could always do Michaels versus Angle and Undertaker and Kane versus Heidenreich and Snitsky. Was there ever a working plan or a consideration for Taker Angle at Mania? That could have been fun.
Yeah, it could have been fun. It could have been great. It just, by that point, I think you're just doing more for the press than anything else.
Who was pushing for Kurt and Shawn? Was that something that Shawn was itching to do, Kurt, or maybe somebody in the back?
Yeah, I think that Kurt really wanted to do it. And, Shawn, Shawn was at the point in his career where he really enjoyed working. And being in the ring sometimes with Kurt Angle doesn't resemble anything about working. Kurt was a machine. But at the same time, it was a clash of two different eras and two different styles that I think clashed and merged really well.
So it's the beginning of Hulk Hogan being inducted into the Hall of Fame. How important was it to induct Hulk for WrestleMania that year? This is the WrestleMania Goes Hollywood. Did that play into the thinking at all, or was it just time? You needed a headliner and it was time?
It was time, and Hulk had come and gone, come and gone, come and gone. And when you look at L.A. and you look at Hollywood, I think that the talent that was inducted into the Hall of Fame that year, from Hulk to Piper on down the line, it made a lot of sense. And Hulk made a lot of sense for Los Angeles.
Over on SmackDown, the show was built around a kidnapping angle with Joey Giovanni and Big Show, Kurt Angle, and JBL's Cabinet. This is a hilarious skit that you and I have had the pleasure of hearing JBL describe in great detail in some of our live shows available over at adfreeshows.com. Can you sort of recap and tell everybody about the silliness of these darts you're trying to use on Big Show? This is fun stuff, is it not?
Well, how the hell else are you going to slow a buffalo down? You got to have like a blowgun, dart gun to tranquilize them. A man that size, you're just not going to be able to give a couple of cc's of Valium and calm him down. You need a dart gun. You need technology that will stuff a buffalo, or stop a buffalo. You could stuff a buffalo like that too, but who knows?
Oh my gosh, how silly some of this is. It's just fun. The idea that I love that we get to be that creative and that silly and that fun. And I know Big Show had to have fun with this. I'm sure JBL did. It feels like Kurt would have hammed it up. What do you think Joy thought of these skits?
Joy was just so happy to have a job at that point. I think that, Joy was still very new to the business.
Yeah.
And not really understanding everything that went on, but Joy showed up and was willing to go through whatever it was we asked her to go through. So she was a very, very nice young lady.
Let's keep it going here and talk about on this same show how the Bashams would win the tag titles from Mysterio and RVD.
Is it really 17 years ago?
Isn't that nuts, dude?
Ouch.
You're old now,
Well, how old were you? You're 9?
I was 23 years old.
Oh, that was after you bought the first mansion.
That's not true.
Okay.
I had
it was your first Rolls.
No.
The second Bentley.
I didn't buy a Bentley till 2009. Will you calm down?
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, this is the show
That's true, folks, by the way.
The Bashams would win the tag titles from Mysterio and Rob Van Dam, Booker and Eddie, and Reigns and Jindrak. So, there's some experiments.
I had no idea what you just said.
Exactly.
Right.
Luther Reigns, Mark Jindrak, Eddie Guerrero, Booker T, Rob Van Dam, Rey Mysterio, and with all that talent, the Bashams come out as champs. I'm always been curious, like, with a big push like this on TV, why did it work out for the Bashams? There's rumor and innuendo that sometimes you can campaign too hard for guys if you're a member of the office. And I know Cornette was handling developmental and he was high on the Bashams and they had done well for him down there. What was it about the Bashams that just didn't translate long-term for WWE success?
Lack of personality.
Okay.
Tremendous in the ring. Doug Basham, I think, was absolutely a tremendous worker and a very good teacher as well. Danny Basham was, I think he went by Damaja in OVW. Another one, very good worker. They just didn't have a lot of personality, separate or together. The idea was to put them together, make them a part of JBL's cabinet. JBL provided the entertainment and the personality, and you knew that they were always going to have good matches.
No doubt. Once the bell rang, those guys were legit, but you're saying, in hindsight, would they have done better with a mouthpiece? Maybe if they had a manager?
Well, they had Layfield.
You know what I mean? Like, I guess what I'm saying is let's get in a time machine. Let's go back to the mid 80s. If they had a Jimmy Hart, they had a Bobby Heenan, something like that. The manager era, if you will, maybe that could have worked.
Could have. It could have if you gave him a Jimmy Hart or something like that.
So John Cena is going to defend his U.S. title over Kenzo Suzuki At this point, Cena
will, and you'll clean it up.
That's awful. I mean, that is like wrong on 182 levels, but the timing right there, buddy, good job.
That's what I do, kid.
Kenzo Suzuki, real deal. He was also another talented in-ring performer. Is it the same story? He just couldn't communicate well, and therefore he's not going to get prime time on WWE?
Well, if you were going to go to Central Casting and look for a big international heel, I think that Kenzo was right out of Central Casting. However, I didn't think that Kenzo was this tremendous worker, but he had a great look. He had size to him, and there was just something about him. It was more of his personal life and or lack thereof that probably did him in more than anything. Nice guy, super nice guy too.
We were talking earlier, and I guess maybe we gave a spoiler, but I said, you really could have gone either way. I mean, John Cena is not yet who he is now, of course. And we realize in hindsight, Cena, for whatever reason, would wind up having
now he's a damn peacemaker or something.
Big time success. But the same story with Batista. Batista also has had big time success outside of WWE, but I don't think anyone would argue that Cena had more success in WWE. We know we're going to go with Batista. But hey, if you're going that direction, nothing wrong with having John Cena still rocking that US strap. What was it about Batista, do you think, that made Vince go with him as opposed to Cena? Was it all about size? Was it positioning with Evolution? Was it in-ring work? Could you put your finger on what it was?
I think that Dave had that it factor, and Dave was able to go out every night and capture the imagination of the audience. So to that extent, I think it was Dave's time more than anything.
So Daniel Puder is pulled from TV, and it's speculated in the Observer that with Paul Heyman being taken off the writing team, he was going to have a hard time breaking through. It said that Heyman's original goal with the gold medal challenge that Kurt was doing every week with local indie guys was that Puder would be the payoff. Now that's been refuted over the years and said, hey, that was just a total accident. Is that how you remember it? That maybe Heyman was campaigning for Puder behind the scenes?
Not that I remember ever. I don't ever remember Paul really pushing Puder hard. Unfortunately in this business, every once in a while, as I've said before, eventually that damn bell has to ring.
Right. And
that red light has to go on.
Right.
I don't know that, even years later, I don't know that Puder's is got the charisma to make it to the next level in at least in this business. Maybe he does in other businesses and maybe elsewhere, but I don't think that he ever had that, oh my God, I've got to see Daniel Puder. I just don't think he had it. And I don't ever remember Paul, ever standing up and being, oh my God, I've got to have Daniel Puder.
The Miz and Daniel Rodimer both turned down developmental contracts coming off of Tough Enough at the time. Of course, we know that they didn't wind up winning, but ultimately they both had a little moment here in the sun. But it's reported in the Observer that Rodimer joked with people that Johnny Ace got him drunk and tried to get him to sign. Now, I'm not saying that happened, but I can't wait for you to try to give me an impression of Johnny Ace trying to get a guy drunk and get him to sign, because that's funny.
That's not funny. What are you trying to say? Hey, you want some Malibu rum? Come on, Connie. I bet you want some French fries.
Oh, that was a Pat Patterson line. What are you doing?
And I bet you want the French fry, don't you?
Now, here's the thing. If Pat had offered me a cheeseburger, I'd have ate that. You know what I mean? But I'm just not a French fry guy. You know that. So the Miz, though, think about that. Boy, it all worked out. I guess it came down to just the economics. From my understanding at the time, the developmental contracts were, shall we say, not very substantial. So it get your foot in the door, get you going, but probably not exactly going to be able to take the family out to dinner every night on that sort of deal. But ultimately it worked out. Do you remember having any sort of discussions about, well, we really see something in that kid in particular, talking about the Miz?
No, not really. I think that in the beginning, the feeling for Miz was that Miz just wanted to be a TV star. Miz wanted to be a reality star, not necessarily a WWE superstar. That was the internal feeling.
Right.
Nobody really thought that Miz had it in him to achieve all the success that he has achieved throughout the years. And I'm the first one to admit I didn't see it in Miz, but by God, I'm also the first one to walk up to him and congratulate him on all the success that he has earned. You talk about somebody earning everything they've gotten.
It's Miz.
Mike Mizanin is just that.
And when you think of all the folks who have had success in WWE, there's a lot of folks who had, I mean, they just came out of the gate and they were successful. Like WWE saw something in them, and as people like to joke, oh, they strapped the rocket to them. That is not the case with Miz. But man, Miz is like the shining example of hanging in the pocket and seeing what's possible. He's living his best life, man. He is one of the great success stories about perseverance, is he not?
Miz was a guy that you could hand a turd to and he would shine it into a diamond.
What a compliment. The reports in the Observer are that Taker and Heidenreich matches on the house shows were, as they said, quote unquote, really bad. Now I know that.
Okay, I'm sorry, man. I got to take exception. Another example of being completely wrong.
Oh, really?
Those matches stunk to high heaven. They weren't really bad. They were awful.
Well,
they were worse than awful. They were. I mean, if you saw that, it would take you weeks to get that stink out of your clothes.
Like 4 years ago, though, you did get to see Heidenreich wrestle.
Maybe 4 years. But
Alabama
anyway.
Doink. I mean, Alabama Doink and Heidenreich had a 5-star classic.
The Golden Corral.
So, serious business. I see.
Come on in, folks. We got a chocolate fountain in Alabama Doink. Did you ever dip Alabama Doink into the chocolate fountain?
I think by the time you and I saw that, he had passed away. R.I.P. Someone who probably wanted you to pass away at the time, though, the Undertaker. I know occasionally he will see you and voice frustration with, you had me wrestle Giant Gonzalez at WrestleMania, but Heidenreich, this frozen soldier gimmick, whatever he is, this is, and the bell rang, as you like to say, top 5 worst.
I would publicly like to say to the Undertaker, I'm sorry.
It's reported in the Observer, in a similar temporary end of a relationship, WWE let The Rock's deal lapse, and his deal expired at the end of the year, December 31st. He's been there for 8 years at this point. And Dwayne said, quote, the company and I are at an odd crossroad. It was an oddly quiet ending without any interaction or communication from the front office or the old man. Surprising to say the least, especially after 8 years. And as a result, I guess maybe his feelings are hurt. He turns down the opportunity to participate at WrestleMania in Los Angeles. And Meltzer would say it's not clear whether the company came to him with the planned idea for the match with JBL for the title or not. Dude, how the fuck does this happen? I mean, I realize he's gone and he's doing Hollywood, but there's not even a conversation. I mean, is this one of those deals where everybody's just so busy you legitimately missed it?
I don't know. JR was doing talent relations at the time. Maybe it just slipped his mind.
You're not really saying that for real.
No, I am. Think how ludicrous that is. I think that the basic look, Rock was doing movies, and I think that Rock management at the time wasn't keen on Rock being associated with wrestling. And, we knew that. Obviously, Rock knew that, but I just think that it was...
Wait, they didn't want him associated with wrestling because it was dangerous and he might get hurt and miss shooting? Or
no, from the aura of, he's a wrestler.
Oh, they thought it was déclassé.
Yes.
I see.
And it just kind of didn't, wasn't the image that they were trying to have for Dwayne. So it just was, I think, timing more than anything else. And everybody, look, I think that if we could have had a relationship with Rock all the way through, my God, we would have walked over hot coals to do that. I think it was just kind of a mutual. I don't know that Rock was really making any effort to stay, and there were feelings on both sides that maybe it's time to take a break, but nobody wants to say to the other one, take a break, and things happen sometimes.
Do you think this is one of those deals where Vince maybe thought, hey, if he wants to talk to me, he'll come see me, or he'll come talk to me, or if he wants to do something, he'll let me know. And maybe The Rock felt like, given his success in Hollywood, and that he didn't have to have this. Maybe he thought, hey, if the old man wants me, he'll let me know. And as a result, nobody let anybody know anything.
I think that probably could have happened. I think that, it's just lack of communication more than anything. But at the same time, I think that ego and everything else got involved, that just things happen sometimes in this business and in Hollywood.
It's just amazing that ego becomes a thing. Let me ask this, as far as creative.
You're surprised that ego becomes a thing? Have you met me?
No, I'm just saying, like, when there's this much money involved and this much opportunity, like, I never let ego get in the way. I'm like, hey, if you need me to eat the shit to make this deal for the greater good of the company, I'm going to do what's best for business. And I guess at that point, neither Vince nor Rock maybe felt like they had to. And they were like, he needs me, I don't need him, sort of deal. That's the vibe I get. And fuck, I don't know these guys.
Yeah. I just, again, it does come down to ego sometimes. And I think that it is one of those situations where things happen.
So were there ever any plans for JBL versus Rock, as far as you know, probably to get the belt off of JBL and on to Rock or something like that?
No, absolutely not.
We would see La Resistance go over William Regal and Jonathan Coachman at a house show in Winnipeg because Eugene tore his ACL. Why La Resistance here, as they're literally doing nothing of note? Why not somebody like Christian and Tomko, or the debuting Eminem with a big push in this scenario, if you had to guess?
Because we're in Canada.
Oh,
Jesus.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Canada.
I know we don't talk about current stuff anymore, but boy, what a career William Regal had pretty quietly with WWE. I mean, I forget what year he came back, but man, he was probably with y'all, like 21, 22 years. That's a hell of a run in professional wrestling, is it not?
Absolutely.
One of the bigger moments in WWE history from the Observer, quote, Raw on January 17th in Toronto was a unique show because it was clearly not a battle to advance storylines or do a good show, but a battle between the writers and the wrestlers against the fans over who was in control of this show. And boy, was it weird. As a whole, the company came off really petty in this regard. Toronto drew nearly 10,000 paid, which is one of the biggest WWE crowds of the past year. And like at SummerSlam, where they sold the building out, it was like the promotion almost resented its fan base. Toronto fans do have a mind of their own, but they're fairly easy to predict. Lawler spent the whole show insulting the fans, calling it Bizarro World, and again complaining that after 8 years, they haven't gotten over Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Where does the Bizarro World comment come from? Is that a Vince line?
No, I think that's an accurate description.
What do you mean?
I think, when you look at, like the crowds after WrestleMania and the crowds sometimes in different parts of Canada, they are in their own world and they'll react in their own way. And it is what it is. So you can either go with it or you can go against it. So, for Lawler, I think that's Lawler. They're just bizarre.
Why do you think that is? It's been said a lot, the night after WrestleMania, oh, these fans have a mind of their own. But then in Canada, that was certainly the case. What do you make of the comments that, and I know you're going to get hot about it, but it's got to be at least a kernel of truth in there that maybe Vince or the powers that be, if you will, resent when the crowd isn't sort of going along with the plan.
That is probably one of the silliest comments I've ever heard, because from a writing standpoint, from a promotional standpoint, from a talent standpoint, I've never resented a paying customer in my life. I appreciate everyone that pays and supports promotion. I appreciate everyone that supports this podcast. So to make that inference, to me, is just absolutely ludicrous. Do you wish that they would react in different ways to certain things? Of course you do. Resent? Absolutely not. That is couldn't be further from the truth. Never. I've never ever resented an audience for participating in the show, good, bad, or indifferent.
What about when they're chanting what all the fucking time?
That's what they do. They're having fun. They're participating in the show. Thank you.
It's a good attitude to have. Shawn Michaels is going to defeat.
But it is. Here's the thing. Would you rather have 10,000 people chanting what? Or would you rather have 10 people doing nothing?
I'm not arguing.
You argue. It sounds like you're arguing to me.
No, I said it's a good attitude to have. I'm being supportive. God damn it.
I have good attitude.
Well,
I have great attitude.
Well, that's questionable. Shawn Michaels is going to defeat Christian, and it's announced that Edge and Michaels will face off at the Royal Rumble. This isn't the rated R superstar version of Edge, but this is a pretty big damn deal for Edge at this point in his career, is it not? I mean, rub it up against Shawn Michaels. Come on with it.
Oh, God. And Edge is absolutely over the moon about it, because it's one of those heroes that Edge always dreamed of working with.
This same show, we would see Batista defeat Viscera. That's right, Big Viscera. And boy, was it one hell of a visual to see Big Dave hit the spine buster on Vis. Man, he's just over like Rover. And the story is that Flair is loving watching Batista improve. And of course, Triple H is scared of it. This is such a super story. And it feels like it takes a village, as they say. I mean, Hunter's doing his part, Rick's doing his part, Batista's doing his part, the fans are doing their part. That whole storyline is one of the better things the company produced, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Sure. And again, because I think people can relate to it, and you get into a situation where you're helping someone come up, and then all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute, man, they're really catching on, and more people are behind them than they are me. So I thought it was a great storyline played out by two guys, and it kind of came from the feeling of whenever, I always would tell the story about Stone Cold, when Stone Cold saw, Rock catching on. God damn, kid, raise a fucking eyebrow, have a couple cute sayings. That don't mean you're over. And Hogan, when guys would come up and he'd go, yeah, brother, they're looking good, but I don't know if they're in for the long haul. Can they last and can they make it? Every top guy, when he feels those young guys nipping at their heels or feels someone coming up, it's only natural. You're going to look at me, I don't know. That was a story we were able to tell, and people were able to relate to it.
Well, here's something that, didn't age well. Trish is going to come out and play the total Bret Hart Canadian babyface, saying she hates being in the United States of America. This is Dave Meltzer's recap. She made fun of Lita losing her title and hurting her knee, but said there's a whole locker room full of wrestlers who would gladly impregnate her to replace her lost baby. As a reminder, that was the whole Snitsky angle. She said,
wasn't his fault.
No, not at all. She said, just because her knee isn't working doesn't mean she can't lie on her back and that her uterus is still open for business. So Kane comes out. They're still married, I guess. And the crowd's booing Kane because Trish is the face. Now Kane is going to tease. He's going to choke slam her, or he wasn't going to choke slam her. And instead he's going to do the right thing. But of course, eventually he does choke slam her. And Meltzer would say, this will be edited out of the show in every country that has violence against women statues. This made Kane the heel for his main event with Snitsky, and it was terrible. The crowd crapped on it too. Fans did the wave and chanted "Go Leafs go" and rejected it until the final spot. They were fighting on the entrance ramp when Kane choke slammed Snitsky off the ramp and threw a few tables. The show went off the air with both dead. Well, except Snitsky was audibly talking with Kane and asking if the spot came off okay. Boy, of all the ways to end a Raw, this probably looked good on paper, but maybe not so much in execution. Do you remember this show?
I don't.
Good for you. I block out painful
Thank
memories
God.
too. Yeah. I want to mention something because this is an interesting show where The Ultimate Fighter airs right after. And this is going to be a new show that UFC is launching on Spike. At this point, the UFC has been hemorrhaging cash. I think they were in the hole like 30 or $40 million. And they had this idea to create a reality show. They took it to Spike. They sort of self-funded most of it. And they knew what they were doing at Spike, and they positioned it right after Raw. I have to tell you, I love the first season of The Ultimate Fighter. Thought it was a great show, but I am curious, did Vince view that as some sort of competition, or in Vince's mind, was it always different and didn't really care?
It was always different, completely different genre and different audience. But I tell you, I think that for, that's an interesting one that, if you were to interview both sides of that scenario, the folks at Viacom Spike and the UFC people and how that whole deal came about and the feelings afterwards. Very interesting story as well.
How so?
Well, I think that in many ways that Spike really reinvigorated and helped UFC tremendously. And the feeling on the Spike side was as soon as UFC and that show got over that they hightailed it and split. And I think Spike was looking more for, what's our payback? Wait a minute. We're not getting our payback on this. Hence the whole Bellator Spike relationship and what have you. There was a lot of bad blood there with Dana White and the folks at Spike.
How's that different from when y'all left and then they put TNA on?
I don't know. Probably different because when we went to Spike, they were getting it from USA. It was already, the show was made.
I see what you're saying.
The UFC show was something that nobody wanted to touch that Spike took a chance on.
Got it.
And built up. With us, we were already a proven entity.
Did you ever see any of those early Ultimate Fighters?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed it.
So you saw the whole Chris Lieben, Josh Koscheck, all that stuff. Did you ever think, hey, maybe there's an opportunity for some of those guys to do something here? There's been a few guys who tried to dabble in that over the years, but it does feel like some of those guys could have been WWE characters. I mean, Chael Sonnen, my goodness, you had to love when you saw Chael, right? I mean, a smack talker, but an ass kicker. I mean, he is the epitome of a heel.
They took guys with personality and allowed them to talk and to get us through that. So you knew them. That was probably the biggest criticism, and still is to this day, of UFC, is that they don't have a lot of characters. Name the UFC fighters. I shouldn't ask you this because you'll probably rattle off 6 whole names. But other than Conor McGregor,
right?
Who's a UFC star? And when was and then when was the last time that Conor fought? When he got his ankle broken.
Well, but people could say that about WWE. Name somebody besides John Cena, and when's the last time John Cena fought? Right?
SummerSlam.
Oh my gosh. Well, Conor fought too. I'm just saying that there's similarities, I think you could say, in that every promotion, right?
There weren't similarities then because no one knew any of the stars.
Well, in fairness,
any of the fighters.
Chuck Liddell was getting over, but I see what you're saying. The Ultimate Fighter was a springboard for UFC, and they were in the red before, and now they've sold for billions of dollars and continue to be a cash cow. And I get it. Smackdown is based around Kurt Angle having to apologize for kidnapping, or else he wouldn't be allowed the title match at the Royal Rumble. So let that be a lesson to you folks. If you kidnap somebody, just say you're sorry, and then you still got a shot at the title. JBL go ahead.
How long are you going to hold a grudge?
Well, that's a fair question.
All right, I'm sorry.
JBL and Show come together because of what Angle did and how it was so wrong. But of course, at the end of the show, JBL turned on Show, and it was a massive heel beatdown that left Big Show bloody. And there's not a lot of heat here. It is a big angle, and it seems weird that the audience, do you think at this point, perhaps the Big Show had been good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad? It just flip-flopped so much that fans were starting to tune out a little bit, and it was hard to, or is it just hard to have a sympathetic baby face when you're a giant?
I think it's hard to feel any sympathy for a 7-foot giant.
Yeah. It's reported in the Observer that the Shane twins were signed to be placed on TV immediately on the SmackDown side. These are two big dudes who were twins, and they're going to do the old switching in and out gimmick. What'd you think of them? And did you think they were TV ready?
Well, great guys, love the business. They were, I think Steve Kern trained them or something, but I know Steve Kern recommended them.
Dean Malenko trained them. I first saw them in TNA. I think they were the Johnsons or the Dicks or something. Oh, they were the Johnsons. It was Dick Johnson and Rod Johnson, and they dressed like penises. And now they're the Shane twins for you guys.
Yeah. I feel about the same way about them.
Is this the same thing as the Bashams?
Odorless, colorless. Yeah.
Wait, your Peters are odorless and colorless?
Definitely odorless.
Doing a little baby powder gimmick.
I wash, Conrad.
I was just trying to get you to talk about your hashtag Rick Rude's dong. So there's a press conference between Steve Austin and Vince McMahon regarding a movie deal. Now, not trying to play conspiracy theorist, but is the timing of this a coincidence with everything that was going on at The Rock at the time?
It was a coincidence in that we were doing the Steve Austin movie at the time.
Do you think?
No, it had nothing to do with The Rock at all.
But you know that they probably thought that, right?
Who's they?
Well, hypothetically, it's been said over the years that Steve and Dwayne were pretty competitive with each other. And I know at this point they're no longer in ring, but still, it does feel like there's a little bit of competitiveness between them, is there not?
I'm sure there always has been. This was more of a WWE studio thing than anything. This had it had absolutely zero. Oh my God, Rock's not going to join, so we'll get Steve to do a movie. Zero truth to that in any way, shape, or form.
You ain't got to get hot about it.
I am hot about it.
But why?
Because now you made me hot.
What's your favorite Steve Austin movie?
Condemned.
I think that's everybody's answer, isn't it?
Yes, I fucking loved it.
So
I seriously think if there was a way, and I really do believe this, if there was a way that a little bit of that violence could have been edited out of that movie and that been released PG, that it would have done much better, would have been much more better received. But it was pretty violent, pretty gory, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was a great movie.
I agree. The January 24th episode of Raw begins with a recap from Meltzer saying, no matter who you are or how legendary you are, when you come on Raw, you can only be humiliated. We should mention this is Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. It's Jim Ross Day. They're going to show him being honored. He's going to talk about how much he loves Oklahoma and the Sooners. Stacy Keibler is going to come out and talk about how it's Jim Ross Day here in Oklahoma. And she's going to bring to the ring Danny Hodge, who was JR's legit favorite wrestler growing up. At this point, Hodge was 72, and he leaps over the top rope to get in the ring and gets a nice reaction. Ross gives the perfect thank you speech, to the point I really wish they wouldn't have messed it up by doing an angle, but I knew better. I wonder what other form of entertainment feels the need to always humiliate people who are former legends. Triple H and Flair came out. Triple H did a great job here of being the ultimate prick. He told Ross that, and Father Time, to run along because he wanted to talk to Keibler. They leave and he grabs Keebler by the wrist and starts threatening to abuse her. Ross jumps in to make the save while he gets insulted some more by Triple H. Flair gives JR a low blow. And then Hodge runs in for the saves and deck Triple H, which gets a big pop. And then Flair blindsides him and they stomp the hell out of Hodge. So listen, I kind of get this because we're getting heat and the guys probably enjoyed it, especially Mr. Hodge, because, oh, I'm in a wrestling angle or whatever. But is there anything wrong with just some old fashioned, hey, let's honor our legends? And by the way, I don't think this could ever happen today. I don't think WWE would allow a 72-year-old to do this, but in hindsight, do you wish you would have handled this one a little differently, or did it accomplish what you were looking for?
No, I don't wish we'd handled it any differently. It's an entertainment show. You have good guys and you have bad guys. You want people to dislike your bad guys. So you have them do things that are unscrupulous to good guys. That's what this was. Now, if Meltzer can't understand that, then, oh gosh, he doesn't understand the business. Wait a minute, what am I saying? It was traditional good versus evil. It was the good guys getting people to hate them even more and taking a local crowd and adding to that for the adoration that the local crowd had for the people that they were beating up. How hard is that to understand?
Well, it leads to a Randy Orton save, but my goodness, how much do you think Hunter and Flair enjoyed working with Hodge? And Hodge had to be thrilled doing it, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely loved it. And, you know, here's the thing. Danny Hodge was 72 years old when this took place. I don't think Michael Hayes is 72 years old yet, but apparently about, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years ago, Michael went to jump over the top of the garden.
Yeah.
And couldn't make it over and took a big bump. And Danny Hodge at 72 had no problem getting over that top rope.
You just wanted to make sure that you shit on. I appreciate that even though he doesn't.
What's that?
I appreciate that even though he doesn't listen every week, you want to make sure on the off chance he does, he hears a little dig. That's fun. Because
I still love, and I love being able to catch Michael out of the side of his eye and look at him and go, oh, because it just tickles us to no end that people now go up to the world famous Michael Hayes, one of the all-time legends and greatest that has ever been in this business, and look at him and just go, oh, I think that's funny.
In the main event.
Hey, I couldn't jump over the top rope at fucking 22.
And you probably didn't sell out the Superdome when you were 11.
11 months. I sold it out when I was in the womb.
Orton beats Flair in the main event here, and we continue with the story all night about the differences between Batista and Hunter. In hindsight, Orton's big crowning moment was SummerSlam 04. He probably could have been in this spot, but he wasn't. Is that just maturity? Was it just timing? Was there anything Orton could have done differently early in his career here when he had that early success? Because now Batista's going to be the man. And you could have argued at the time, since he got the belt first, it should have been Orton.
I don't know. I don't know if Randy was ready for it at that point. I just think, maturity wise, age wise, everything else. I don't know that Randy was really ready for it and be able to handle it. And Dave, I think maturity wise was in a little different level.
So the Smackdown Go Home show, as we march towards Royal Rumble 05, has Heidenreich reading a poem, and then Taker's music hits and a casket gets wheeled out, and Heidenreich powders out.
Wouldn't you?
Yes. Angle versus JBL is the main event. It ends when both men knock each other out, and that builds towards the three-way here at the Rumble. And it's in the Observer that there were talks of bringing back Mean Gene and Bobby Heenan to host the Hall of Fame. Was that something that was talked about internally, or is it because Hogan's going to be the focus and they were associated with him for so long, so it just made sense?
Yeah, I think that when you look at the nostalgia end of it, that Okerlund and Hogan go hand in hand, as does Bobby Heenan, even before the WWE days. And in the AWA with Heenan and Okerlund and everybody, they were synonymous with Hulk Hogan.
I want to mention Batista does an interview in the media prior to the Rumble, and it's said here, quote, "I don't consider it a rivalry." He's talking about SmackDown and Raw at all. "We're a better show, period. There's no comparison. I feel sorry for SmackDown. I just don't know what's going on over there. I try to watch the shows, but for me, they're hard to sit through. And that really makes me sick, as it should be a top show. I've watched their tapings live, and it seems like a lot of the guys couldn't care less. There's a lack of passion and pride. They need the stress of a live show on them like we have. A lot of them think, oh, it's taped. If I mess up, we'll just redo it. They're more worried about where they're going after the show, which also makes me sick because it means they're not here to work." And I'm curious from your perspective, Bruce, part of the company's approach to this has to be, oh man, that's good. That's competitive. We like when folks are competing and people are a little uncomfortable, that's when they're going to do their best work. I get that. But on the other hand, if you're in the media saying, man, that show sucks and it's your own show, maybe that's not the right approach. What'd you think of these comments?
Yeah, I think it's a poor choice of what he said. I don't think that, you have a way you can put yourself over and you put other people over in the process, and that's how everybody gets over. And an extremely just poor choice on his part.
What do you think? Meltzer writes this, this isn't being said without Triple H's approval, and it actually speaks volumes about many things. He's not wrong either, as there is a difference. Did you feel
that shows that Dave Meltzer has no idea what Hunter approves and doesn't approve. I couldn't see in a million years Hunter approving that. Or approving of it.
Right. But did you feel that way? Did you feel like SmackDown was, as we like to say in the South, lollygagging a little bit?
No, I don't. Absolutely not.
Batista's never been one to really care what people think or bite his tongue. Do you remember there ever being a time where the company ever had to go to him and say, hey man, what the fuck? Got to ratchet some of this back.
Sure. On several occasions, I think that there have been times where Dave has been talked to about different things, but, Dave was out there and learning as he goes. You gotta remember, Dave was still green here too.
Right. Well, Bruce, we're here now. It's the 05 Royal Rumble. It took place on January 30th from the Save Mart Center at Fresno State. There's 12,000 folks here. The show's going to get 575,000 buys. Now, compared to the 04 Royal Rumble, which was Hunter and Shawn in a last man standing match and Benoit winning the Rumble in Philly, they got 582,000 buys. So not really a drop off of any substance, but this is a smaller arena than the one we're used to for the Rumble. Is this more a matter, in your opinion, of timing and scheduling, or did the company not have confidence that they could run a bigger arena at this era?
Oh my God, no. We were going to Japan. It was routing.
You ain't got to get hot about it.
No, I get hot because the inference is, oh, we don't have confidence. We're not going to run a building. That doesn't exist.
Well, just so you know, there are larger arenas than Fresno State in California. So,
okay. Are there larger arenas with better deals than what we got at Fresno State?
Well, that's why I was asking. And then, I put that in the question and then you got pissy about it.
It's routing, it's deals. It has a lot more to do than just, there's a lot that goes into it. Believe it or not. There's not just one guy with a dart and a dartboard and with the goddamn map of the United States of America. God bless America. Just hit whatever we hit. It's actually what Ed Cohen used to do. He had a big giant map of the United States on his wall and had a dart. We would just throw darts at the wall.
I do remember.
Yeah, that's where we're going tomorrow. Book it.
Have you played Pick 6 from DraftKings yet? What are you waiting for? You better get on it. The playoffs are here and time is running out. As the official daily fantasy sports partner of the NFL, DraftKings does fantasy sports like nobody else. Play for better payouts on Pick 6. It's super easy to get started. Just select 2 or more players and then choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, like touchdowns, yardage, sacks, or more. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. And DraftKings is making it even sweeter for first-timers. New Pick 6 customers play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Win more cash on Pick 6. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use the code STW. That's code STW for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccp.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. Only one per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 30 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. The show is well received by the Observer as we're talking about the Royal Rumble here in 05. 79.3% thumbs up. And the opening match is Shawn Michaels and Edge. How about that for a fucking pay-per-view open? What a big time match that is. Edge and Shawn Michaels.
Couple of curtain jerkers.
So they go 18 minutes and 32 seconds.
Match.
And unbelievably, Edge gets the win. Meltzer would say the match was good, but Edge had so many better matches over the past year that it had to be a disappointment. Michaels' body language, superstar aura, and facials are what is carrying him more than the athletic ability that made him where he is. There are some timing issues here that you wouldn't expect. Edge got the advantage doing the execution on the floor. Edge was bleeding after slicing his forearm, and then there were a series of near falls. Edge delivered a spear on the floor, then threw Michaels in and nailed him with a perfect spear in the middle, but Shawn kicked out. Edge acted like he was going nuts, actually pulling his hair out of his head like he had mentally lost it. Edge later used his yet unnamed lasso from Toronto submission, but Michaels made the ropes. By this point, Edge was bleeding from the mouth as well. The finish saw Michaels do a Japanese rolling crotch hold, but Edge rolled with it, held both the ropes and the tights, and got the pin. 3 1/4 stars. Bruce, when's the last time you executed a Japanese rolling crotch hold?
Last night.
Did you get put over?
I was up in the guest bedroom, and it's got one of them mattresses that are kind of funky. And so before I knew it, I had my Japanese crotch by the hole.
Okay. This is a big win for Edge, not just as a character,
because they're painting anyway, didn't want y'all thinking there was anything strange going on.
I mean, what y'all do is your business, you know?
And then
seriously, when you and Stephanie were here last time, I mean, Megan had to get the painters out. We had to patch the sheetrock upstairs.
Well, that's what I'm doing now.
I mean, you need to slow down, Tiger. Get off the blue chew.
Well, you know,
this is a real big win for Edge. Not just the character, but I mean, the guy in his career. He had to love working with Shawn and getting a win. Do you think he or Shawn were disappointed with the match?
No, I think, and you know, this is, to me, it's just kind of funny when they talk about, there were missed spots or there were, you know, whatever. When you watch something, it's like people, that was real, or things like that. If it is too smooth, if it is too, everything's perfect, everything's smooth and pretty and all this shit, to me, I think that's worse than things that missed or intentional or whatever, but that look real. I don't think that people move pretty all the time. I think when you watch a football game and a guy, wouldn't it be so much prettier if everybody hit their blocks and we ran for a touchdown that was picture perfect and barely missed the guy as he ran? No, it's clunky. It's weird. It's different. Give you the illusion of this is real and this is different. I don't think either guy was disappointed because there was nothing to be disappointed in. You got two great guys from different eras clashing, and I thought they had a hell of a match.
Next up, one of your favorites. The Undertaker is going to beat John Heidenreich in a casket match in 13 minutes and 20 seconds. I kind of would have liked to have seen John Heidenreich win this casket match at the Royal Rumble and send the Undertaker back to heaven, but it didn't happen here.
Why would you want that?
It was just fun seeing the Undertaker float to the sky.
Well, because you're from Alabama, and Doink and Heidenreich, Alabama Doink.
Legends.
They had bad blood back then, didn't they, Conrad?
It's been a classic my whole life.
Didn't you?
This match is preceded by a Heidenreich and Gene Snitsky skit. There's these two horrible giants snarling, telling each other how much they like each other. Heidenreich tells him, "Hey, I like you, Snitsky, but I hate caskets." And Snitsky says he has a plan. Meltzer says, if the plan was to cancel this match, it would have been a hell of an idea. Snitsky ran in early and they did a double team using a mistimed double suplex on the Undertaker. So he landed badly, and you really have to feel so sorry for him trying to make lemonade unsuccessfully out of these matches. They went to roll him in the casket, but they opened the lid and a bandaged up Kane was there. Kane cleaned house for a while until he paired up with Snitsky. Kane and Snitsky brawled, and the scary part was this was the hottest part of the match. They ended up brawling out of the ring. It was your typical casket match, except worse from here. Heidenreich got Undertaker in, but he blocked slamming the door on 2 occasions, and the finish was really bad. First came a botched DDT spot, and then the Undertaker lost Heidenreich on the choke slam. Both times it was Heidenreich's doing. And finally, Undertaker used the tombstone and rolled him in the casket, 3/4 of a star. So it was, as JR used to say, bowling shoe ugly. Undertaker walks through the curtain. Does he just shoot you the death stare right away?
Yeah, not pretty. Yeah, it was terrible to say anything. And here's the crazy thing, man. We make fun of Heidenreich and have fun with him. And John is super. I mean, he's almost childlike in his innocence sometimes, and just being nice. I don't remember if you were there when it happened, and you might have come by afterwards, but I was doing an autograph signing in Orlando at WrestleMania, for an Orlando WrestleMania, and the contract signing the autograph signing was someplace else. And Heidenreich and the Alabama Doink guy got into a fight, but he wasn't all dressed up as Alabama Doink. He was just whoever the guy is that was Alabama Doink running the thing. And he and Heidenreich got into an argument over money. And Heidenreich broke a table and threatened to beat the crap out of the guy. And the guy, took off running and all this stuff. And people were around. And I just happened to be across the aisle and down a little ways. And as John came down and he saw me sitting there, and he stops cold. He looks like he's ready to kill someone. And he probably was if he could have got his hands on the guy that portrayed the Alabama Doink. And he just stops and looks at me and goes, "Oh, hey, Bruce. Hey, man, how you doing? I'm so sorry you had to see that. This fucking guy stole money from me and promised me X amount of money. When I asked him for my money, he told me he didn't have it. I said, well, you better get it." And he starts getting all worked up again. And then he just puts his shoulders down and goes, "Man, I'm so sorry you had to see that." And throws his hands up in the air "Oh, damn it." And then just walked off into the crowd and disappeared. And I didn't see him for the rest of the time. And that's, John just is kind of a very innocent, very nice soul, but a little crazy.
Next up, JBL is going to retain the WWE title in a 3-way over Kurt Angle and Big Show at 12 minutes and 4 seconds. Angle would hit Show with a TV monitor while he's standing on the ring steps, and Show falls backwards with an ST plunge bump through the Smackdown announcer's table. And Show only sold being out for 2 minutes before he makes the comeback. Angle isn't able to carry a match with guys like this all by himself anymore. Show did a running tackle, sending JBL through the barricades. They brought out a stretcher for him, and then the Bashams came out. Angle tried to bring in a chair, but Show flapjacks Angle on the chair and has it beat. But Mark Jindrak pulls the ref out of the ring, and then Luther Reigns attacks Show. As Reigns and Jindrak are beating up Show, JBL staggers into the ring and does a clothesline on angle to pin him. And it was almost a babyface turn tease because Cole was putting over JBL as a survivor star in 3/4. Man, this is just weird. The idea that we're trying to sell that, oh, he's a survivor, when in reality, he's a heel who set all this up. But the match just didn't click. The idea that Kurt Angle had a pay-per-view match that only got a star in 3/4. How much of that is just these guys didn't click, and how much is it three-ways are just a clusterfuck?
Three-ways are a clusterfuck, and I just don't know that. It just was a cluster, and I think that the overall foundation of the match didn't work. That's all. It's just sometimes it doesn't work.
Triple H is going to pin Randy Orton in 21 minutes and 28 seconds to keep the title. They get 3 1/4 stars. Meltzer would say it was clear they were limiting the interference to the 2 matches they felt needed it more. I thought the only ending here was Batista beating Orton and saving the title for Triple H, but instead they went with Triple H over Strong. They might have as well, since Triple H has been booked as the face who overcomes the odds most weeks anyway. And the crowd was chanting things like Randy sucks and Orton's a pussy. Wow. Triple H constantly outfoxed Orton.
Man, names hurt.
Words hurt.
Words hurt. That's right.
Triple H constantly outfoxes Orton when he'd go for the RKO, and most of the match was Triple H working on Orton's legs. They tried to push the idea that Orton had knee damage from a recent match. Orton got a bloody mouth. After the requisite Hebner ref bump, Triple H grabbed the sledgehammer. Orton stopped him from using it and posted Triple H, who juiced. Orton went for a DDT, but Triple H held onto the ropes and Orton hit his head on the mat. Orton did a great job selling the idea that he had a concussion as his eyes were glazed over. And that was kind of his out, that he was, even while out on his feet, continuing to fight. Triple H then pinned him after a pedigree, 3 1/4 stars. In hindsight, do you think it would have made more sense to have Batista interfere a little bit here?
No.
You
didn't have your Batista win yet. So again, I think you would have been foreshadowing. You didn't need it. You already had the story being told. And again, it just adds to the story all that much more. You didn't need it. Now, I thought it was an absolutely excellent match. And, you go back and you look at how great Randy was then when he was a kid, still, learning and still very young, was an absolute prodigy.
Next up, a great little segment backstage happens. Ric Flair and Eddie Guerrero are doing a backstage segment where they're drawing numbers, and Flair obviously draws a good number, and Eddie gives him a handshake and steals it. Classic Eddie, lying, cheating, stealing. Great segment. Is this Brian's writing? Cause this is fun.
I'm sure it was me.
Great. Glad to hear that.
Yeah. That's what I did. Brian didn't do shit.
Next up, it's time for the actual Rumble. Batista's going to win, as we know, and we're going to talk about all of it, but it goes 51 minutes.
Why is it whenever it's good shit? Oh, is that Brian doing it? He ain't going to put you on Young Rock, man.
I don't want to be on. Okay. That would be kind of fun to be on your. No, what I mean is though, the comedy stuff I've always credited. I mean, I've never known you to be
not funny
on this show. I don't know about
I'm hilarious.
I know you are, but is your writing, name one funny thing you wrote on WWE TV ever in your life?
That right there.
Okay. Besides that, anything.
Brother Love.
What was that?
Brother Love.
No, not your performance. Something you wrote for other people that was funny.
Who the hell do you think was writing that? Everything good I did.
Everything bad was Brian, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So Batista wins 51-27, and Meltzer would say this is probably the first Royal Rumble that Pat Patterson, who created the event, wasn't heavily involved in putting together. For the record, Patterson wasn't even at the show. He was in Tampa at the Wrestle reunion. Bruce, I know it was a long time ago, but from your recollection, is this the first Rumble you remember Pat missing?
No, I think he missed a few before this, maybe at least 1 or 2 before this, at least. I always love to have Pat back in though, to pick his brain and go over it, even just once a year, to have him there for it. But that was selfish on my part because I loved working with Pat.
What's the magic to putting together a Rumble?
Uh, Patience. Patience is one, and no pride of authorship. You have to. You probably will tear up a half dozen before you really start to get a feel, because you have to. You get parts and you get things in your head, but they don't always fit where you want them to. It's just patience more than anything.
I'm just curious how it all gets put together, because we know there's going to be little storylines within it. Let's get started. Number one, Eddie Guerrero, 28 minutes and 11 seconds is what he's going to last. He's going to have 4 eliminations. He's representing SmackDown, and he's out number one. Number two is going to be Chris Benoit, and he's going to last 47 minutes and 26 seconds. He'll have 2 eliminations, but that means we start with some badass hard wrestling, at least 2 minutes worth to get us started. And then Daniel Puder comes in at number 3. And when he does, well, he sort of gets the initiation treatment. It seems like Eddie and Chris Benoit just sort of forget about each other and take turns throwing some brutal chops Mr. Puder's way. And then Bob Holly comes in at number 4, and boy, is he grinning like a possum. He is so excited to be in here. He's going to give even more hard chops to Puder. And then Puder takes a back suplex from Benoit, the 3 vertical suplexes from Guerrero, and the Alabama slam from Bob Holly before being the first one out at 6 minutes and 2 seconds. Meltzer would say Puder was knocked silly because he was laying on the ground for several minutes and barely moving. Some of it must have been selling because nobody attended to him, but he was laying out there a long time and it was never shown on camera. Holly's usefulness was over at that point. So rather than risk him hurting somebody important, Benoit and Guerrero dumped him at 6 minutes and 11 seconds, just as Hurricane came in. So let's just stop right there. We've all acknowledged that maybe Daniel Puder wasn't yet ready for prime time, but he's in a big spot here on the Rumble against Eddie and Benoit, who just chopped the shit out of him. And then Bob Holly, man, he does some more. This, in hindsight, looks kind of bad. What do you think of this?
Why does it look bad? It's a brand new guy coming in who is a rookie who's just starting out with 2 of your top guys that beat the hell out of him. And a third guy comes in and beats the hell out of him because he's a rookie. You're not expecting him to do anything. If he did anything, nobody knows how it's going to look. It was the safest, most logical thing to do, and then get him the hell out of the ring.
So
what else would you do? What else would you do with him? Risk him hurting other people and being in there longer where he doesn't really know what he was doing?
Or not put him in there?
Well, again, get him some exposure. Let's see what the hell, if there is anything. It's 6 1/2 dozen. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
You got to get hot about it.
I am hot about it.
So what's coming up next is a brawl between Raw and SmackDown guys, 4 versus 4, which ends when Muhammad Hassan comes out and everybody stops brawling and dumps him, which really puts him over as the super heel. That's all from Meltzer's write-up. I should mention he came in at number 13, only lasts 54 seconds. Booker T, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Edge, Luther Reigns, and Shelton Benjamin would dump him out. That's really the most notable thing that happened here. I guess I should mention Hurricane lasted 1 minute and 4 seconds. Eddie Guerrero threw him out.
What's up with that?
Kenzo Suzuki is eliminated by Rey Mysterio after 3 minutes and 31 seconds. Edge lasts 40 minutes and 19 seconds at number 7. He has 5 eliminations. Rey Mysterio is eliminated by Edge after 38 minutes and 25 seconds with 1 elimination. Shelton Benjamin is also eliminated by Edge, but he lasts 14:35. Booker T comes in and lasts 10 minutes and 42 seconds, and he's going to have 3 eliminations. Jericho comes in and is ultimately eliminated by Batista after 28 minutes and 22 seconds. He picked up 2 eliminations. Luther Reigns, a name we don't spend a lot of time talking about, is eliminated by Booker T after 7 minutes and 13 seconds. Got any good Luther stories you could share with us?
He had a horseshoe on his head.
That's about it, right?
There you go.
After him is the Muhammad Hassan thing we were talking about, which really made him sort of the super mega heel, which I guess is a good spot to be in for him. Orlando Jordan is out next. He's going to last 3 minutes and 36 seconds before he's eliminated by Booker T. Scotty 2 Hotty was attacked by Muhammad Hassan before entering the ring. So he was entrant number 15, but he was never actually eliminated. So I want to say right now in a loud and clear voice, we need justice for Scotty 2 Hotty. In my mind's eye, we're going to have Batista and Scotty 2 Hotty settle this like men. Can you put them in a match at WrestleMania to just settle the score here once and for all?
No.
Would you consider it?
Just did. No.
How about a little longer?
No. No.
I want to mention, Eddie Guerrero gets thrown out after 28 minutes and 16 seconds. He's thrown out by Edge, which gets a huge amount of heat. And right in after that is Shawn Michaels to help get the match back focused. I mean, that's pretty well done. And then right after, Kurt Angle comes in for 47 seconds, which is enough to suplex almost everybody before Shawn Michaels super kicks him out, which is really awesome. I mean, what a great way to get somebody over in 47 seconds. He comes and kicks everybody's ass, but then gets caught slipping. And then of course, Angle attacks Shawn, which eliminates him illegally, busts him open. And now their WrestleMania program has started. This is a Royal Rumble that's put together really damn well.
Thank you.
Next up, Charlie Haas is going to come out. He's going to last 16 minutes and 20 seconds. Rene Dupree is going to last 11 minutes and 32 seconds. Jericho is going to eliminate him. Your boy, Simon Dean, lasts 20 seconds. Shawn Michaels eliminates him. As we mentioned, Shawn Michaels is out at 19. He's going to get eliminated by Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is also going to be eliminated by Shawn Michaels. And then Coachman is out. He's eliminated by Ric Flair, but Coach lasted 13 minutes and 48 seconds. Are you guys just fucking with Coach here to let him last that long? This is hilarious.
The hell of an athlete.
Oh my, I love you for that. Next up, Mark Jindrak. He's going to come in, last 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Viscera is in, with John Cena eliminating him after 3 minutes. Then Paul London at number 24. Snitsky would eliminate him after 3 minutes and 15 seconds. John Cena is out and lasts 15:28. We'll come back to that. Snitsky is going to be eliminated in 3 minutes and 38 seconds by Batista. Kane's out thanks to John Cena in 3:54. Batista was number 28. He lasts 10 minutes and 54 seconds. Christian is going to be out at number 29. Batista dumps him out after 2 minutes and 9 seconds. And Ric Flair really did have the best number that night. He comes out at number 30. Edge eliminates him after 1 minute and 58 seconds. I want to mention the Paul London spot here. Gene Snitsky is going to go ahead and receive Paul London doing the clothesline off the apron and a shooting star flip on the floor. And what's bad about it is they had a camera shot on London being put on the stretcher, and the EMTs are taking no care of him, and they literally threw him on with no immobilization. So it was almost a comedy movie spot. Meltzer says it would have taken very little quality control to have made that one believable booking. Of course, he's being critical of something here, but I guess if you're going to bring the stretcher out, you probably ought to make the shit look legitimate, huh?
That's Northern California stretcher operators. So
So the final four come down to Batista, Edge, Mysterio, and Cena. So it's always been said that, boy, the company has big plans for the final four. And these are four big time stars. Edge eliminates Mysterio, and then Batista and Cena both eliminate Edge, and we're down to two. And Meltzer would say, while the crowd was more for Batista, they didn't boo Cena. That wasn't a risk worth taking. And here's why we're all here. Meltzer would write, in actuality, the Royal Rumble finish was botched. John Cena was simply supposed to escape from the powerbomb the first time, but later get powerbombed and thrown over the top clean. Instead, they both lost balance and tumbled over the top rope. The referees had no idea what to do, and Vince McMahon was in the back on the headsets, basically directing everything that happened. At first, the referees raised Batista's hand as the winner, as was planned. When it became clear that Batista actually hit the ground first, Vince ordered the referees to do the tie finish, with the SmackDown referees calling it for Cena and the Raw referees calling for Batista. He then said he was coming out, and that explains why no music was cued for Vince. So let's walk through the first part. Is the way he broke it down pretty much the way you remember? It was supposed to be 2 power bombs. The second one goes out clean and they just lost their balance. And here we are.
Well, Cena was supposed to go out. I don't remember all the machinations up to it, other than John was slated to go out by Batista at the end, and they just both went over at the same time.
What goes on at Gorilla when they tumble over?
Well, fuck. That's what goes on. It's like, okay, let's see who hit. Maybe Cena hit first, therefore Batista wins, and you're good to go. And I think Dave hit first. So it was like, okay, well, can the argument be made that they hit at the same time? And all this is happening in a matter of seconds. It's not like, okay, stop everything down. Now let's figure out what to do. You're trying to figure out as you go. And it's like, okay, tell the SmackDown guy to raise John's hand, tell the Raw guy to raise Batista's hand. We got, and we're thinking, okay, shit, maybe we can get to a match, or you know what? Just start it over. And before you know it, Vince is out and Vince is headed down to the ring to figure it out. And I don't know that we necessarily had exactly what we wanted to do before Vince went out, because Vince just bolted out and went to the ring. And then when he slid in the ring, nobody could figure out why the hell he didn't get up. He just sat on the damn mat.
So you couldn't tell right away that he had banged himself.
What's that?
You couldn't tell right away on the monitor that he had hit his leg getting in, right?
No, yeah, we didn't. I don't remember seeing him slide in. Again, we're trying to do a million different things and talk to a million different people, trying to figure out what to do. And you look up and Vince is sitting on the apron, yelling at everybody. And it's like, okay, what the hell's going on here? And we restarted the match and got our finish.
Meltzer says, instead, after far too long period of indecisiveness, Vince McMahon came to the ring doing the Vince walk. As Vince tried to slide in the ring like a wrestler, he didn't get high enough and smashed his right knee on the apron. As he tried to recover, he climbed through the ropes, took a step on his right leg, and collapsed. While sitting down, unable to get up, he started pantomiming about what to do. The show was way over time by this point, as they had been shaving time throughout the Royal Rumble because the undercard had already went long. While trying to explain and unable to stand, Cena and Batista threw each other once over the top. By the time it was restarted, the show had run way too long, and the two had to simply have Batista powerbomb Cena and throw him out in 16 seconds, making for a weak ending, particularly as it regarded Cena, who was scheduled to face JBL for the Smackdown title, and this clearly made him a secondary challenger and that a secondary title match. So you're seeing Vince sitting in the ring, panic is setting in, and listen, we've discussed everything that's happening and going on, and I know that they've got to just come up with something on the fly, but what the hell happens when Vince walks back through the curtain?
Vince just came back, and the fact that, he walked and nobody knew what happened at all. We're doing our thing, and it's before you know it, match starts, we get our finish, we go home, and Vince came back and sat down, and trainer came over to talk to him, and everybody gave him his privacy and left. I mean, that's it. There was no big dramatics or anything like that at that point. And he was obviously hurt.
Right.
We could see that he was hurt, but nobody knew how he got hurt. No one knew really what the injury was. We thought he blew out his knee or something. Maybe sliding into the ring. He hit the edge of the ring and maybe blew his knee out somehow. But they asked for privacy and we all left. So no one knew what his injury was, how bad his injury was, or even how the injury happened. Didn't know that till, long after the fact. So it was just kind of okay, well, Vince banged his knee. They'll get him back there and take a look at him, and let's go. Got to go to Japan in the morning.
The word is, as we've always heard, is as he's trying to no sell it, he winds up putting more pressure on the other leg, fucks up that leg even worse somehow. And I think you've told us a story before that you could actually, I know it's pain.
I mean, I heard a guttural scream, but again, it was, I think Vince, look, he walked back from the ring.
Right.
Which is in and of itself is a miracle.
and foolish, right? I mean, good Lord.
And foolish. Yeah. But when he came back and, got down the stairs, and again, I didn't see it. I don't think anybody saw it.
Right.
Except for probably the doctor and the trainer that was with him. But I remember being down the hall near his office, and heard just this horrific, howl, Hodge, and it was like, what the fuck was that?
Right.
And, trying to walk and trying to get back. I think that he all that pressure on the other leg that one went. And so now, he'd pulled both his quads and shit was on. But, we didn't even know that, nobody really knew until much later, in the evening, the extent of his injuries. And really at that point, all we knew was that, hey, he's going to go and have this looked at, and probably going to have some surgery. So he's not going to go to Japan, and you guys have a good trip. So nobody knew until long after the fact that he had torn both quads and was in a great deal of pain, because everybody's like, he was walking, because I don't ever want to experience it myself, but I can only imagine, trying to do that. I doubt I'd be able to walk.
Meltzer would say, and what may be the most important story, McMahon's noticeable aging has become concerning. It was never something talked about, and now barely a day go by when somebody doesn't bring it up. McMahon turned 60 in August, but the past few months, there was the first time you really ever heard people talk about what happens to the business after Vince. It's a scary proposition, because for all the positives and the negatives that can be said about the person who is ultimately the greatest promoter in the history of this industry, and at many times a creative genius, you'll find almost nobody who understands wrestling who isn't very concerned about pro wrestling when in the US when he's no longer in control. And here we are 17 years later, and Vince is like a fucking bionic human on some level, because he's still going. I mean, I know we're both tickled that he's still going, by the way, but hypothetically, would you have ever imagined he would still be doing WWE in 2022?
Yes.
It's just hard to imagine
Absolutely.
him not doing it, right?
Yeah, I can't imagine him not doing it, and I'm sure that he will continue to do it probably for the next 25 to 30 years. His mom's 101.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And still going. So, he shows no signs of slowing down at all. And he's a freak of nature, and it's hard to imagine it ever without him. And I don't think that we'll have to imagine it without him for a long, long time.
So you don't buy into the rumor and innuendo. You think this is the Vince McMahon show for the long haul?
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me. I want to mention too, it was reported in the Observer that the promoters in Japan who were promised Vince for TV tapings, because it had always been Shane and Stephanie going to these things, and that made the company uneasy. Well, they didn't know if Vince was going to be able to travel. How real was that issue from your perspective?
We knew he wasn't going.
You mean beforehand or once he was injured?
No, once he was injured. But what are you asking?
No, it's not like you can help it at this point, right?
Yeah. It is what it is. The guy, he needs to be taken care of. And the last thing he needs to go on is a transcontinental flight to an international destination.
Well, no kidding.
Where English is not the primary language.
you've sort of freestyled before what you think the scream sounded like. You want to give us your best impression?
Ow.
Thank you.
Ow. Ouchie, I said. Fuck, I can't do that anymore.
What do you think? Johnny Ace said when he realized what happened?
Get out of my way! Need some oil for your legs.
Oh my!
Your arms still look what? Your arms still look great, sir.
That's tremendous.
What?
All right, so Bruce, let's do some fan questions. Let's get to it. Did Daniel Puder know he was being hazed?
He wasn't being hazed.
Oh, come on. That is the new guy welcome to the club treatment. Of course it is.
He was lucky to be in the Rumble and grateful.
Another one here. If this is not the greatest example of Vince not selling shit, what is?
Oh my God. Yeah, it's up there. I mean, again, he's a freak of nature. So yeah, it definitely was Bizarro Land.
Here's one. What did you think of Triple H as a heel in this era? For it, against it, his best work, not his best work, just not your favorite?
No, actually, I think that for me, I thought that by this time that the audience really wanted Hunter as a babyface. And he was so comfortable and just preferred being a heel that, that's what he wanted to do. And he was very good at it. I just think that overall, probably the majority of the audience, in my opinion, wanted him as a babyface. But anyway, look, this was some fun shit. Going back to all the stuff with him and Flair and Batista and all that shit was absolutely, I thought, some of the best work any of those guys ever did.
So next month, or next week rather, we close out the month, the Royal Rumble month, when we look back 15 years and discuss the 20th Royal Rumble from 2007. It was the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas, or as you people say, San Antone, where we have 3 championship matches scheduled and the first Rumble to include ECW. Bobby Lashley is going to defend the ECW title against Test. Batista will defend the world title against Mr. Kennedy. And John Cena will take on Umaga in a last man standing match for the WWE Championship. And we also see the beginning of the Undertaker Shawn Michaels WrestleMania build. What else do you think we might be talking about when we talk all things Royal Rumble 2007?
Fuck if I know. I got to watch it again.
All right. You ain't got to get hot about it.
God damn.
By the way, as a reminder, you get all these shows early and ad free over at adfreeshows.com. And Bruce, I'm pretty excited. Y'all are just going to be right up the road from us. And as folks are listening to this, Smackdown is in Nashville tonight. And I don't know. It always seems like Nashville's a good crowd for WWE. So I'm looking forward to that one, man. I got some guys from the office who are going to be tagging along. It should be a good time, dude.
Music City. Can't wait. I love me some Nashville, man. John Layfield and I had a condo there in Nashville for about a year and a half. We did some business there with an energy shot, and I absolutely love Nashville to death.
But you're going to be there for an afternoon, coming in that morning, leaving that evening. What's the over under on me and you spending time together? I'm going to say 5 minutes. You got the over or the under?
Yeah, right.
The under?
He's so silly.
You going with the under?
I'm going with the under.
Can you just send me a picture of where you are in the building? And then maybe we could do just like track my friends or track my family, and it'll be like, hey, we're in the same place.
You can track me that way. I'll send you my locale.
You think?
See, I'm always moving, man. I'm on the go.
You think hypothetically you'd be able to put me on the parking list so I can get a good parking spot?
Oh, hell no.
God damn it. Well,
always wanting stuff. Always just hand out wanting stuff. Man, what the?
A parking spot? Really?
Oh yeah. Dude, it's, Tennessee.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
All right, boys and girls.
You know how we talked about the other day about like different places that I would live, and I said, hey man, I could see myself going to living in Huntsville. I could actually see myself living in Tennessee.
Oh, for sure.
Nashville
specific. Chattanooga ain't bad, but Nashville is the jam.
Chattanooga's nice as shit too, but I like Tennessee.
Yeah, no state income tax, and you never have to worry about the pressure of winning football games. It's kind of cool.
Exactly.
All right, boys and girls, that'll do it for this week's edition of Something to Wrestle. We're going to be back next week talking about Royal Rumbles again. It is Rumble season, so why not? We'll see you next week right here on Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard.
Rock on.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus, ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.